here. Thanks very much for that introduction, Don, and thanks very much for the organizers for asking me to speak today. And what I hope to do today is try to tie together some of the aspects of, you've been hearing a lot about what's going on in the world and what's going on in terms of opportunities. In terms of opportunities in Durham region and beyond. And what I'm going to try to do is talk about some local opportunities, but try to tie it to some of the things that you've been hearing about global opportunities that maybe we can participate in a way that we're not participating now in the future. So I'm going to start with, see if I can get this right. There we go. Viridian is the 7th largest electrical distribution company in the province. We have about 120,000 customers, and we're owned by the municipalities of Ajax, Pickering, Clarington, and Belleville. And we serve 9 communities, so 9 former utilities in one. And we're the project of 2 mergers and 5 acquisitions. We're always in top quartile efficiencies, and we give high returns to our shareholders. We have a 724 control center that operates all those territories, and we have competitive rates. So we've been doing very well, and as Don has said, the history of Viridian is very good, but I think the future holds some opportunities, especially at this time, that we can take advantage of ourselves as well as with partners to try and optimize what's going on. Now, from a business perspective, companies are looking for efficient distribution of energy. They're looking for lower rates. They're looking for better service levels. And from a municipal perspective, especially because of the ice storm and Hurricane Sandy, they're looking at more resilience for potential climate change in the future. So I'll be talking about some of those things in relation to the electrical utility and then some of the opportunities that flow from that. So first area is adding value to customers. So whether it's business customers or residences, looking at lowering costs and less increase to electricity rates. You may have heard in Ontario that there's rising electricity rates. Well, the distribution proportion is typically about 25%. So the ways to do that are being efficient in your own company, but also looking at things like shared services, cooperatives, more mergers. And one big opportunity I'll talk about later on is that Hydro One, the provincial utility for distribution, the government is considering whether they could offer that up for sale. And in our case, 7 of our 9 municipalities contain some Hydro One service territory. So that may be a big opportunity to try and make things more efficient, reduce waste, and bring the rates down over time for customers. The other thing that the customers want certainly is a higher level of service. So the idea of 724 immediate response and improved coordination with municipalities and customers, and then prudent investments in infrastructure with limited capital. So there's a lot of investments in our electrical infrastructure that we require to be able to make it smarter, make it respond more quickly to outage situations, make it more resilient, make it more responsive during an ice storm. There's more upgrades that we need to do in terms of communicating to customers. I'll give you an example. In the ice storm situation, we had customers in some of our territories to the west of here that were out for many, many days. And we had just started a Twitter account, and that the usage went way up during that period. So things like Twitter, outage maps, and things are going to be things that customers really expect and require to be able to run their businesses and protect their family in the future. So, community resilience. There's a lot of work going on after this ice storm. I was the chair of a provincial panel that looked at all the utilities that were affected, as well as ones that send help to this area, to the GTA, to help us during the ice storm. And there's a lot of work going on also after Hurricane Sandy, where areas like New York City and the eastern coast of the U.S. were affected. And the one thing they're finding is that in some places, certain pockets of the infrastructure or hospitals that had combined heat and power plants or things that were set up in advance, they kept running during those disasters. So there's a lot of effort right now in the U.S. to make sure that some of this learning gets incorporated in how we design power systems of the future. in terms of being more resilient. Clearly, with climate change, these kinds of storms and events are going to be more in the future. You're going to need a smarter grid to be able to respond, and I know UOIT is doing a lot of good work in the smart grid area. We're doing actually doing some work with them, and this idea that it's the last point, but a microgrid is something that you can actually isolate from the main network when the main network goes down, and you could run the things like a hospital or a warming center or water pumping, critical water pumping, or electricity and heat systems in a certain concentrated area. Now, it's difficult to put that together once everything's built, but as you're building new infrastructure and new communities, like for example Seaton to the northwest of here, there's an opportunity to really do this in a different way going forward. The other thing we're doing, I talked about the communication with our customers, and then we're also analyzing things like low-lying areas where there might be chances of flooding, and then hardening our overhead system as well to be more responsive if there is an ice storm again. So these are all things that customers expect. The customer expectations are going up and up and up, and certainly from a business perspective, it's critical to have reliable power that's available for the businesses at a really good price. Our commercial rates, for example, are quite low and quite competitive. So we use that as to try to attract businesses into our territories. This idea of combined heat and power, I've touched on it a little bit, but it helps the businesses be more competitive. I know there was a large industrial facility to the east of here in Oshawa that was looking at putting in a combined heat and power plant. And not only would that help their business in terms of being more cost effective, but it would provide steam and heat for their processes and maybe allow steam and heat to be exported to the neighboring properties to allow more companies to come in. So we're looking at those things in our territories, and I think it's important to look at potentially doing that with others in partnership so we can get some more scale and scope. The key areas where this is going to be important are places like hospitals, because they need the hot water for their processes in a hospital. Universities, there's already a combined heat and power system at UOIT in Durham College, and the critical infrastructure. We have opportunities in the Seaton employment lands along the 407 in terms of district energy and combined heat and power. And both Pickering and Oshawa are identified as places to grow in the Places to Grow Act, so there's going to be intensification and more building in terms of mixed use, which may be more amenable to this kind of system. And basically the benefits of combined heat and power is you get very high efficiencies versus just generating power without using the heat from the process. The other area, the government has announced the Pickering Airport, and we're not sure when that's going to happen, but when that, in advance of that, there may be transportation infrastructure that goes through there. There may be opportunities to have these kinds of district energy systems. And there may be opportunities to have things like greenhouses. You can't, on the airport lands, you can't really grow things out in the open because of obvious reasons. But there are opportunities to have greenhouses where we can grow more local food. And there may be other places, for example, the Clarington Energy Park, where you could do that as well. And the other opportunity I talked about before, if the Ontario government is serious about selling Hydro One territory, it's really an opportunity for this region to take advantage of the growth that's happening to the east of here and to the north of here. So we could increase by about 40% in terms of our customers if we were able to purchase the territory within our municipal boundaries of our places we serve already. It would reduce services, overlap of services, increase service levels, and bring the rates down, because right now the Hydro One distribution rates are much higher than the rates that we charge as well. So certainly we have an intention to try to participate in this process if it happens, but certainly with partners we could probably draw a line between us and Ottawa and take more territory and be able to sort of serve more and participate in the high growth that's going to be happening along the lake and through the territory. So with that, that's sort of the overview of what I wanted to talk about, but I think the next steps are also looking at export opportunities. So if we can figure out how to do some of these things better than we're doing and work on smart grid opportunities and microgrids that we can model here and have happen here, that provides us an opportunity to provide that to other jurisdictions like China. We know in the trade missions to China, one of their main concerns is clean air and energy, and they're going to need a lot of help, and also clean water. They're going to need a lot of help to be able to put those things together and make it work for their society, because right now it's not working. So I think it's a real opportunity. Thank you very much.